I found the hotel keycard in my husband's wallet while looking for cash to tip the pizza delivery guy. Room 914, Grand Marquis Hotel, dated 3 days ago. The same night he told me he was working late at the office. My hands went numb, but it was the lipstick shade smudged on the edge of the card that made my stomach drop. Ruby Temptation by MAC, my sister's signature color. The same shade she'd worn to our 10th wedding anniversary party 2 weeks earlier, when she'd hugged my husband a little too long and whispered something in his ear that made him laugh. "I'm so glad you're here." If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story from. I want to know how far it's traveled. Because what happened at our vow renewal ceremony, the slideshow I prepared, the speech I gave, and the moment 200 guests watched my perfect marriage explode was the most painful and satisfying thing I've ever done. My name is Rachel. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Austin, Texas. I'm a graphic designer, a wine enthusiast, and up until 6 months ago, I believed my baby sister was my best friend, and my husband was my soulmate. I was wrong about both of them. Dead wrong. The discovery happened on a Wednesday. I remember because Wednesdays were my favorite. David always came home early. We'd cook dinner together, watch whatever show we were binge-watching, and just be us. 11 years of marriage and Wednesdays were still sacred. Or so I thought. I stood in our kitchen, that hotel keycard burning in my palm like hot coal. The pizza guy was still waiting at the door, but I couldn't move. My mind was racing through every late night, every work emergency, every time David's phone buzzed and he stepped out of the room to answer it. How many of those were her? "Ma'am, the pizza?" The delivery guy's voice snapped me back to reality. I paid him, closed the door, and walked mechanically to the living room. I sat on our cream-colored sofa, the one David and I had picked out together at IKEA, arguing playfully over which shade of white was less white, and I stared at that key card. Ruby Temptation. My sister Vanessa's lips had been on this card that had opened a hotel room door, a hotel room where my husband had been. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Hey sis, want to grab lunch tomorrow? Miss your face!" The casual audacity of it made me want to scream. Miss my face? While screwing my husband? I didn't respond. Instead, I did what any suspicious wife in 2024 would do. I went through David's phone. He'd left it charging in the bedroom. Password still the same 4 digits it had been for years. 0729, our wedding date. The irony wasn't lost on me. His text messages were disappointingly clean. Too clean. No messages to or from Vanessa at all, which was suspicious in itself. She was his sister-in-law. There should have been at least some family coordination texts. He'd deleted them. I checked his email. His social media. Nothing. But then I found the app I didn't recognize. Signal Chat. An encrypted messaging app. And it wasn't password protected because he never thought I'd get this far. I opened it. There was only one conversation thread. No name, just a phone number I recognized immediately. Vanessa's number. I scrolled to the top, to the very beginning, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. The affair had started 8 months ago. 8 months. The messages were explicit, detailed, nauseating. Plans to meet at hotels, complaints about me, about how I was always working, how I'd let myself go after the miscarriage, how I was emotionally unavailable. That last one made me want to throw the phone across the room. 2 years ago, I'd had a miscarriage at 16 weeks, a baby girl we'd already named Emma. I'd fallen into a depression that took months to climb out of. David had seemed supportive, patient, loving. But apparently, behind my back, he'd been telling my sister I was emotionally unavailable, while I was grieving our dead daughter. And Vanessa, my baby sister, who'd held my hand at the hospital, who'd helped me pack away the nursery we'd started decorating, had responded with, "Poor baby. You deserve so much better. Let me take care of you." I read every message. Every single one. There were hundreds. They'd been careful, meeting in hotels across Austin. The Grand Marquis, the Hilton downtown, even a sketchy motel off I-35 that charged by the hour. They'd had sex in our home while I was at work. In our bed. The bed where I'd cried myself to sleep after losing Emma. The bed where David had held me and promised we'd get through it together. There were discussions about me. Mocking discussions. Vanessa called me Rachel the robot because I'd thrown myself into work after the miscarriage instead of falling apart. David called me the roommate because we'd stopped having sex regularly. Something that happens, you know, when you're grieving a dead child and your husband is apparently fucking your sister. But the worst messages were the recent ones, from 2 weeks ago, right after our anniversary party. Vanessa, did you see how pathetic she looked in that dress? She's really given up, David. I know. I feel bad for her sometimes. But then I think about you and I don't care anymore. Vanessa, when are you going to leave her? I'm tired of hiding, David. Soon, I promise. I just need to figure out the financial stuff. She owns half the house, and her name is on most of our accounts. Need to be smart about this, Vanessa. Can't you just ask for a divorce? David, and give her half of everything? No way, I'm working on something. Trust me, I read that exchange 3 times. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning to screw me over financially when he left. And my sister, my own flesh and blood, was not only okay with it, she was impatient for it to happen. I closed the app, put the phone back exactly where I'd found it, and went to the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror. I had let myself go a little. My hair was in a perpetual ponytail. I'd stopped wearing makeup daily. I'd gained maybe 15 pounds since the miscarriage. But I wasn't pathetic. I wasn't a robot. I was a woman who'd survived something devastating and was trying to rebuild her life. And these two people, the 2 people who should have been supporting me, had turned my grief into an excuse for their betrayal. I went back to the living room, picked up that pizza, and ate 3 slices while formulating a plan. I'm a graphic designer. I'm creative. I solve problems visually, strategically, and right now, I had a very specific problem that needed a very public solution. David came home an hour later, same as every Wednesday. He kissed my cheek, asked about my day, microwaved 2 slices of pizza. We watched an episode of The Bear. He held my hand. He laughed at the funny parts. He was so convincing, I almost doubted what I'd found, but I hadn't imagined those messages. I hadn't imagined that hotel key card. Hey, I said during a commercial break, keeping my voice casual. I was thinking, our 10-year anniversary was so nice. What if we did a vow renewal, like a big one? Invite everyone. Make it really special. David looked at me surprised. Really? That's kind of a big deal, babe. I know, but I feel like we've been through so much, you know? With Emma and everything after. I want to celebrate us. Celebrate that we made it through the hard stuff. I squeezed his hand, watching his face carefully. He smiled, a genuine-looking smile that made me sick. I think that's a great idea. When were you thinking? 3 months from now? That gives us time to plan, send invitations, make it really memorable. 3 months. Yeah, okay. He pulled me close, kissed the top of my head. I love you, Rach. This is going to be amazing. I rested my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, steady and calm. I love you too, I said, and I meant it, in a twisted way. I love the David I thought he was, the David who didn't exist. The next morning I started planning. Not a vow renewal, a reckoning. I hired a private investigator named Monica Chen. She was expensive, but came highly recommended by a colleague whose ex-husband had been similarly indiscreet. I need evidence, I told her, handing over screenshots of the messages. Dated, time-stamped, indisputable evidence. Monica didn't even blink. Hotel surveillance footage, credit card receipts, more messages. I'll get you everything you need. How long has this been going on? 8 months that I know of, she nodded. Give me 2 weeks. While Monica worked, I played the perfect wife. I was sweet to David, attentive, interested in his day. I texted Vanessa back, agreed to lunch, sat across from her at our favorite taco place and watched her lie to my face. So how are things with David? She asked, picking at her carnitas tacos. Good, I said, taking a sip of my margarita. Really good, actually. We're doing a vow renewal in 3 months. Vanessa's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. A vow renewal? Yeah, I'm so excited. It's going to be huge, like 200 people. All our friends and family. You'll be my maid of honor, of course. I smiled at her, watching the color drain from her face. Rachel, are you sure that's a good idea? I mean, vow renewals are kind of cheesy. Cheesy? Vanessa, you were my maid of honor at my wedding. Of course you'll be my maid of honor for this. Unless... I let the sentence hang, watching her squirm. No, of course I'll do it, she said quickly. I'm just surprised, that's all. Things have seemed kind of strained between you guys. Strained? What makes you say that? I kept my voice light, curious. She backpedaled. Nothing, just, after Emma. I know things have been hard. They have been, I agreed, but we're working through it. David's been so supportive, so patient with me. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. And you've been amazing too, V. I honestly don't know what I would have done without you. She looked like she might cry. Or throw up. I couldn't tell which. 2 weeks later, Monica delivered. She gave me a thumb drive containing hotel surveillance footage of David and Vanessa entering and leaving rooms together. Credit card receipts showing David had paid for dozens of hotel rooms over 8 months. Restaurant receipts from romantic dinners I knew nothing about. And the crown jewel, a recording from a bug she'd planted in David's car. I listened to that recording alone in my home office. Headphones on, door locked. It was from a week after I'd proposed the vow renewal. David and Vanessa were driving somewhere, probably to another hotel. Vanessa. I can't believe she wants to do a vow renewal. What are we going to do? David, nothing. We do nothing. Let her have her little ceremony. It'll be the last nice thing I do for her. Vanessa. You're still going through with it? The divorce? David, obviously. But after the renewal. That way I look like the good guy who tried. When I file for divorce 2 months later, everyone will think she's the problem. That I did everything to save the marriage and she still wasn't happy. Vanessa. You're kind of brilliant, you know that? David, laughing. I learn from the best. Your sister's not as smart as she thinks she is. I stopped the recording. I'd heard enough. The next 3 months were the longest of my life. I planned a beautiful vow renewal ceremony, elegant invitations with gold foil lettering, a stunning venue at a winery outside Austin, a photographer, a videographer, a string quartet, a 7-course dinner. I spent $40,000 of our joint savings on it. David thought I was being extravagant, but didn't stop me. Why would he? It wasn't his money I was spending, it was ours. And soon, in his mind, he'd be free of me anyway. I kept the guest list huge. 200 people. Our friends, our families, my colleagues, his colleagues, people from our church, neighbors, everyone who knew us as a couple. I wanted witnesses. Lots of them. Vanessa threw me a bachelorette party. Yes, for a vow renewal. Ridiculous. And I smiled through every minute of it. She gave a toast about sisterhood and love that made me want to dump my drink on her head. Instead, I hugged her and thanked her for being the best sister anyone could ask for. David had a bachelor party too. His friends took him to a golf course and then a steakhouse. Classy. Vanessa texted him that night. I was still monitoring the Signal chat app. Missing you. Can't wait until you're finally mine. He responded, Soon, baby. Soon. The week before the vow renewal, I moved most of my personal belongings to a storage unit. Important documents, sentimental items, my grandmother's jewelry, photo albums from before David. I did it while he was at work, methodically packing up pieces of my life. I opened a new bank account at a different bank and transferred half of our joint savings, my half. I consulted with a divorce attorney named Patricia Hernandez, who reviewed all my evidence and said with a grim smile, You have an airtight case. He won't get a dime he's not entitled to. The day of the vow renewal arrived. It was a perfect May afternoon, sunny and 78 degrees, with a light breeze that made the winery's grapevines sway gently. The venue was gorgeous, long wooden tables decorated with white roses and candles, fairy lights strung between the trees, a small stage set up for the ceremony. I wore a simple white dress, not a wedding gown but elegant, sophisticated. I'd lost the 15 pounds I'd gained, not for David but for myself. My hair was professionally done, flowing in loose waves. I wore ruby temptation lipstick, a deliberate choice. Vanessa's color. Let her see it and squirm. Vanessa arrived early. As maid of honor, wearing a pale pink dress I'd picked out for her. She looked nervous, fidgety. "You look amazing," she said, hugging me. "Are you ready for this?" "So ready," I said, smiling. "This is going to be unforgettable." David arrived with his best man, his college buddy Ryan. He looked handsome in his navy suit, his hair freshly cut. When he saw me, his eyes widened. "Wow, Rach, you look... wow. Thank you," I said coolly. "You look nice too." The guests arrived, filling the space with chatter and laughter. My parents, David's parents, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends from high school, friends from college, work friends, 200 people who thought they were here to celebrate a marriage being reaffirmed. They had no idea. The ceremony began at 5 p.m. Our officiant, a friend from church who'd married us 11 years ago, stood on the small stage. David and I walked down the aisle together, hand in hand, smiling at our guests. Vanessa followed behind us, her face pale but composed. We reached the stage. The officiant began with a speech about love and commitment and weathering life's storms together. I barely heard it. My heart was pounding, adrenaline coursing through me. This was it, the moment I'd been planning for 3 months. "Rachel and David have prepared their own vows," the officiant said, gesturing to me. "Rachel, would you like to go first?" "Actually," I said, my voice steady and clear, "I'd like to show something first. A slideshow, to honor our journey together." I nodded to the AV guy I'd hired. Not the one David knew about, but a different one. Someone who knew exactly what I needed. He pressed play. The large screen behind the stage lit up. It started innocently enough. Photos from our wedding day, from our honeymoon in Greece, from birthdays and holidays and lazy Sunday mornings. Our guests smiled, making appreciative noises. Then the photos changed. Hotel surveillance footage appeared on screen. Timestamped, dated. David and Vanessa entering the Grand Marquis Hotel, room 914. David's hand on her lower back, intimate, possessive. Vanessa laughing, looking up at him the way a woman looks at a lover. The crowd gasped. I heard my mother say, "What is this?" More footage. Different hotels, different dates, always the same 2 people, my husband and my sister. Then came the screenshots of their messages, enlarged so everyone could read them. The explicit texts, the plans to leave me, David's messages calling me the roommate, and discussing how to screw me over financially. Vanessa's impatient texts asking when he'd finally leave me. The audio recording played next. David and Vanessa's voices filled the space, tinny but clear. Vanessa: "I can't believe she wants to do a vow renewal. What are we going to do?" David: "Nothing. We do nothing. Let her have her little ceremony. It'll be the last nice thing I do for her." 200 people sat in stunned silence. Some were crying. David's mother had her hand over her mouth. My father looked like he wanted to commit murder. David and Vanessa stood frozen, their faces the color of ash. The slideshow ended. The screen went black. I turned to face them, my voice amplified by the microphone I was wearing. "Surprise," I said softly. The venue erupted. People were shouting, standing up, pulling out their phones. David lunged toward me, but Ryan and 2 other groomsmen grabbed him. "Rachel, what the fuck?" he started. "No," I interrupted, my voice cutting through the chaos. "You don't get to talk, not now. You've been talking behind my back for 8 months. Now it's my turn." I turned to face our guests, all 200 of them, some of them still processing what they'd just seen. "I apologize for deceiving you," I said. "You all came here thinking you were celebrating a marriage, but marriages are built on honesty, trust, and faithfulness. And as you just saw, my husband and my sister destroyed all 3. Vanessa was sobbing, her face buried in her hands. My mother had left her seat and was walking toward her, not to comfort her, but to confront her. "How could you?" My mother's voice rang out. "Your own sister?" David tried again. "Rachel, please, can we talk about this privately?" "Privately?" I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You want privacy? After you and my sister had sex in our bed? After you planned to divorce me and take everything I worked for? After you used my grief over our dead daughter as an excuse to fuck Vanessa?" That last detail made several people gasp. My miscarriage wasn't common knowledge. We'd kept it private, just family. But now everyone knew. Everyone knew what he'd done to me when I was at my lowest. You recorded us? Vanessa's voice was small, broken. You've been spying on us? I documented your affair, I corrected. With the help of a private investigator. Everything you saw is legal, time-stamped, and will be submitted as evidence in our divorce proceedings. Divorce? David's voice cracked. Did you think I was actually going to renew vows with you? I looked at him, this man I'd loved for over a decade, and felt nothing but contempt. This was never a vow renewal, David. This was a public execution of your lies. I wanted everyone who knows us, everyone who would have taken your side when you filed for divorce in 2 months like you planned, to see the truth. I pulled out a manila envelope from behind the officiant's podium. These are divorce papers. I'm filing on grounds of adultery. I have 8 months of documented evidence. You'll get exactly what you're entitled to under Texas law. Nothing more, nothing less. The house is in my name, inherited from my grandmother. Most of our joint assets came from my salary since you've been working late, instead of actually working. I handed him the envelope. His hands shook as he took it. As for you, I turned to Vanessa. You're no longer my sister. I don't ever want to see you again. I don't want to hear your voice. I don't want your apologies or your excuses. You're dead to me. My mother had reached Vanessa by then. Get out, she said coldly. Get out of here right now, Vanessa ran. Literally ran, stumbling in her heels, sobbing, pushing through the crowd of stunned guests. Someone, I think it was David's cousin, threw a glass of wine on her as she passed. The pink dress bloomed with red stains. David stood there, the envelope in his hands, looking at me with something between rage and disbelief. You're insane, he said finally. You're fucking insane. No, I said calmly. I'm done. There's a difference. Security? Yes, I'd hired security, expecting things might get ugly, escorted David out. He went quietly, probably in shock, definitely humiliated. The guests were in chaos. Some were leaving. Some were crowding around me offering support. Some were just standing there processing what they'd witnessed. My father hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. I'm so proud of you, he whispered. So goddamn proud. My best friend Lauren, who'd been in on the plan, brought me a glass of champagne. Holy shit, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. You actually did it. I actually did it, I agreed. We didn't have the 7-course dinner. But we did have food. The caterers had prepared it, and I'd paid for it, so people ate. We didn't have a reception with dancing and toasts, but we had something better, a purging. People who'd known David and me as a couple got to see the truth. People who might have believed his lies later got to hear the evidence from his own mouth. My mother-in-law, ex-mother-in-law, I suppose, approached me before she left. I don't know what to say, she said, her eyes red from crying. I'm so ashamed of my son. He made his choices, I said. That's not on you, she hugged me. You deserved better. You deserved so much better. After most of the guests had left, I stood alone on the winery terrace, looking out over the vineyards in the fading light. Lauren came and stood beside me. How do you feel? She asked. Lighter, I said. And it was true. The weight I'd been carrying for 3 months, the knowledge of the betrayal, the planning, the constant performance of normalcy, was gone. Empty, but lighter. That slideshow was savage, Lauren said admiringly. Absolutely savage, I smiled. I'm a graphic designer. If I was going to expose them, I was going to do it with production value. The next few weeks were brutal. The divorce proceedings began immediately. David tried to fight it at first, but his lawyer took one look at my evidence and advised him to settle. He did quietly, taking his share of our joint assets and nothing more. Vanessa tried to contact me. Texts, emails, calls, even a letter delivered to my house. I blocked her number, filtered her emails to trash, returned her letter unopened. My parents cut her off too. She'd betrayed not just me, but the entire family. I heard through mutual friends that David and Vanessa tried to stay together after everything exploded. It lasted 6 weeks. Turns out relationships built on betrayal don't have strong foundations. Who knew? The video of the vow renewal, yes, someone recorded it and posted it online, went viral. Millions of views. I became vow renewal revenge girl on TikTok. Some people called me a hero. Some called me cruel. I didn't care about either label. I sold the house. Too many memories, too much pain. I bought a smaller condo in downtown Austin, modern and sleek with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city. I redecorated it entirely in my style. Bold colors, eclectic art, plants everywhere. Nothing that reminded me of David. I threw myself into my work. My design agency got busier, partially because of the publicity from the vow renewal, partially because I was working harder than ever. I took on bigger clients, more challenging projects. I won awards. I made more money than I ever had when I was married. I started therapy. A good therapist named Dr. Susan Park, who specialized in trauma and betrayal. We worked through my grief over Emma, my rage at David and Vanessa, my trust issues, all of it. Slowly, painfully, I started to heal. I dated a little, casually. Nothing serious. I wasn't ready for serious. Maybe I wouldn't be for a long time. But I went out. I had fun. I remembered what it was like to flirt and laugh and feel desired. My friendship with Lauren deepened. We'd always been close. But after she helped me plan the vow renewal, after she stood by me through the aftermath, we became truly inseparable. She was the sister Vanessa never was. About a year after the vow renewal, I ran into David at a coffee shop in downtown Austin. It was unavoidable. We lived in the same city. He looked older, tired. He'd put on weight. He was with a woman I didn't recognize, younger than him, laughing at something on her phone. He saw me. Our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us knew what to do. Then I smiled, gave him a small nod, and turned back to my laptop. I was working on a design for a major tech company, sipping an oat milk latte, living my life. He didn't deserve my anger anymore. He barely deserved my acknowledgement. He left without ordering coffee. I never saw Vanessa again. I heard she moved to Dallas, trying to start over where people didn't know her story. My parents never forgave her. On holidays, there's an empty seat at the table that no one mentions. The sister who stopped existing. Sometimes people ask if I regret it. The public exposure, the viral video, the spectacle of it all. They ask if a private confrontation would have been better, more dignified. My answer is always the same. No. David and Vanessa had planned to humiliate me privately, to gaslight me into thinking I was the problem, to divorce me while making me look like the bad guy. They'd planned to take my grief and use it as a weapon. I simply returned the favor. Publicly. With 200 witnesses. Some betrayals deserve private resolution. This wasn't one of them. This was a betrayal so deep, so calculated, so cruel that it deserved to be exposed in the brightest light possible. I wanted everyone to know what they'd done. I wanted David to face his family and friends knowing they'd all seen his messages, heard his voice, witnessed his plans. I wanted Vanessa to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't betray your sister and expect to still be welcomed at family dinners. I wanted justice. And I got it. The truth is, that vow renewal was the best $40,000 I ever spent. It bought me freedom. It bought me validation from 200 people who saw the truth with their own eyes. It bought me the ability to move forward without doubt, without what-ifs, without wondering if I'd done enough to save my marriage. I hadn't failed. They had, and now everyone knew it. Today, I'm okay. More than okay, actually. I have my career, my friends, my family, minus one sister, my beautiful condo, my life. I have peace. I have dignity. I have the satisfaction of knowing that when I was betrayed by the two people who should have loved me most, I didn't crumble. I didn't beg. I didn't make myself smaller. I got even. Strategically, publicly, and permanently, and I'd do it again. Did you like my story? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.